academia and the corporate sector. And with all that experience, I've asked her to manage our chat today and collate all of your questions. So welcome, LaDon.
Thank you, Sarah.
And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Sarah Smart. I'm also a lecturer here at Torrens University and also the subject coordinator for IND 101A. My background is in marketing as well as political and communication sciences. And I've been with Torrens now for quite a few years, so I'm sure a few of you will know me. So now that you've met both of us, I am excited to introduce someone to bring even more real-world industry insight into our classroom. Please join me in welcoming our guest speaker, Cath Koch. Welcome, Cath.
Hello everyone. Thank you for having me.
So before we start our interview, I just wanted to quickly do an introduction of Cath without taking away from some of the interview questions I'm going to ask. Cath is an entrepreneur and business founder with over 25 years experience. And believe it or not, she started out as a freelancer creating media kits for pharmaceutical companies and then actually became a pioneer in web development. This was when the internet was just starting. So in those really early days, she was at the forefront of helping businesses develop digital tools like websites, keywords, domains, all of those things that are so natural to us now and that, we sort of know in terms of terminology. She was at the forefront of making that happen. She recently acquired a print and signage business to complement her web development company. And she also, for her clients, successfully implements CRM systems and digital workflows. She's actually currently transitioning that business to her husband to refocus on making enterprise level technology accessible to small businesses. Her area of focus is now and always has been system integration, automation, problem solving, processes, and of course now with the integration of AI. Her mission is to reignite that entrepreneurial spark in business owners. And by using automation and systems integrations, she's enabling businesses to become more profitable, but also, and this is why I found it so exciting to invite Cath to speak with us, also reclaiming time. And we've spoken a lot within our classroom about time management, organizational management, and also about stress management, and obviously improving work-life balance. So this is something that Cath, does as well for businesses to allow them to have more time to really focus on the things that are important to them and important to their business. So again, welcome, Cath. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us and speak with our students. We really appreciate it.
It's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Sarah.
No, my pleasure. So in order for you not to have to necessarily look at your picture the whole time, I'll stop sharing. I know. So I'm just going to stop sharing that screen for a little while, and that way we'll just have ourselves on the screen. But even though I gave a little bit of an introduction there of yourself, can you give us a bit of an overview just in regards to your educational journey, sort of your career journey so far? I talk to students a lot about, it's not about where you want to end up, it's about the journey of how you get there. And sometimes life takes us in all sorts of directions to get to where we currently are. So could you tell us a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I finished high school, I wanted to go to university. I very much wanted to study computer science. I ended up needing to get full-time employment. So I sat for the bank exam. Back in those days, if you wanted to work for one of the big banks, you just sat their exam. So it was pretty easy, actually. You just ace the exam and you get. So I did that because I needed a job. And I finished school in November, and 2 weeks later, I was working for the Commonwealth Bank. So I started at a part-time university studying a double degree in computer science and accounting, believe it or not, and started working for the bank. So I worked for the bank for 7 years, and then obviously in that time got married and decided that I wanted to have a family. So I took a redundancy from the bank when it was offered, and I actually then worked for an accounting firm in their share registry. So I was managing their share portfolios for some of our biggest companies, including Suncorp Metway and quite a number of mining companies. So that was really interesting work. And then I left to have a family and then went to work for a tech company. So I was actually working for Data3 part-time while my children were little, and continued studying. I followed my interest even more into multimedia, and that's where I discovered websites. And there was one while I was studying, we had a lecturer that came in, and it was a very new thing. He was this very strange hippie kind of looking guy, and he said, here's something new that you wouldn't have seen before, and he showed us how to build websites. And because I had a tech background and I loved to code, and I was in this multimedia learning path, and I was loving it so much, I realized that here was something that combined code and design, and I never had experienced it before. Unfortunately for me, no one really knew what a website was or why you would want to build one, or why you wanted to have one. But it was pretty obvious straight away that this combination of code and design was what I wanted to do. So we were building websites with HTML and CSS, and basically you just hand coded it out. You figured out what you wanted to go where, and you wrote the code. And so I couldn't really get any work doing that. So I actually was introduced to a professor who needed someone to create media kits. And so I started off creating media kits, and then as soon as I could, I started to build websites. And I ran my web development, web design business for many years before I decided that I wanted to, once my children were older, I decided I wanted to grow that business even more. And that's when I started to employ staff and really get serious about the business. So yeah, so that's pretty much my journey. And then from there, of course, I bought the print and signage company, and now I'm moving more into AI and automation. AI is not going away. It's definitely a thing. And I think within a few years, we'll all be using AI to build our websites. And even though I have over 25 years of skills in that area, it's not going to be something that's going to be a job really long term. So I'm instead transitioning to be on the forefront of using AI and helping businesses to make their lives easier, to buy them back time, to just make them more profitable and more successful using AI and automations. And so that's how I ended up where I am now.
No, fantastic. On the forefront of technology yet again, 25 years later.
Yeah. I did. It was a struggle explaining to businesses why they needed websites. And one of my very early clients, they were a asbestos transport company, and they were KM and BS Smith. And they said, we want kmbssmith.com.au, and I said, no, you're going to have asbestostransport.com.au. That's going to be your domain name. And of course, back in the early days, realistically, if you had the right domain name and the right keywords on your website, you ranked number one. And so for 7 years, they ranked number one for asbestos transport in Australia, and they didn't have to advertise at all. They just ran their business from that, and because they never updated their website, it never changed. It stayed on that domain until they retired. And although it was a bit of an old broken website, by the time they did retire, it was still ranking really beautifully, and they didn't need to worry about where their customers came from. So it's little things like that knowing that you've made a real difference in someone's life and their business journey just by giving them the right advice and setting them on the right path. And so I'm hoping to do that now again with AI and automations and set businesses on the right path to make sure they're successful.
That's wonderful. Well, let me now take you back sort of to the whole process of you growing your business. So obviously the students in our classes are going to be going through the employment process at some point. They're going to have to go through interviews. They're going to have to, even before then, write their resumes and everything. So my question to you is, what do you typically look for when you get a resume across your table?
Yeah, so a lot of people think that when a business owner is just looking for the smartest person, the person who's got the best qualifications and the most amazing intelligence, but that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for someone who has a real drive and desire to be part of a business, someone who has a love of learning, someone who shows that they really enjoy the type of work that they would be doing. I would rather have someone less skilled who really wants to be in my business and do that work than someone who has all of the qualifications. It's more about the desire, the drive, wanting to be there, wanting to learn, being a lifelong learner. And I think now even one of the most important things is being the kind of person who asks the right questions. It's not the knowledge that you have, it's asking the questions that lead you to the answers that you need.
And how do you see that? I mean, what do you look for then in a resume or in a CV to say, right, I'm going to invite that person in for an interview? What are things that stick out for you where you say, yes, this is a candidate I want to meet or know more about?
Yeah, so I'm looking for the obvious things, which are spelling that's correct. If there's too many spelling mistakes, I'm not going to continue looking at that resume. I'm looking for someone who is in their language is confident but not arrogant. I'm looking for someone who's going to fit in my team, someone who shows that they have a good understanding of who they are and can work as part of a team and willing to just get in, have a crack and help out where it's needed. So I'm looking for someone who's got a good life path as well, someone who participates in life and has hobbies and has personality without being, I guess some personalities come across as a little bit casual. So I'm looking for someone who's confident, but not too formal and also not too casual in the language that they use. So the language that's used in their cover letter and in their resume is really important. Yeah.
Yeah. And so in terms of ones that are placed in the no pile, you said things like spelling mistakes and also if it's too casual or colloquial in the writing.
Yeah.
But then you also said ones where you can see through personality and hobbies. So you're someone who likes to see what people do in their free time. So if they're part of a netball team or if they play an instrument, that's something that you like to see in a resume so you can get a feel for who they are. Because I know there's a bit of a divide there. Some people like it, some people don't.
Yeah, I think it's important, particularly in a small team, it's important to, it's no good getting a job just because you think you might want to work there. You actually need to fit in with the rest of the team. So I think that's really important. And it's not that, like I have, someone on my team who's a, gaming nerd. It's not that I'm then all looking to just employ gaming nerds. I don't know, it's just showing that they have things in their life that they enjoy and a sense of enjoyment and getting out and being part of society, being part of community. Someone who plays a team sport, some people might go, oh, they're going to get injured, they're not going to turn up for work, but it's not about that. If someone's playing a team sport and they love it, it's a passion of theirs. I guess it's having a passion for life in general that's really important. Yeah.
So if we then sort of move forward, so you've got a few candidates where you've received their CVs, received their cover letters, they seem like somebody that you'd like to get to know. If we now go to sort of the interview process, you've sort of already given a little bit of indication as to sort of your ideal candidate in terms of the way they speak. What about appearance or even email etiquette before, the communication that happens even before that interview takes place? Because you obviously need to notify them that there's going to be an interview. What are you looking for in that regard as well?
Yeah, I'm looking for someone who is timely in their response. I'm looking for someone who's confident in their response. Being vague is going to be a red flag for me. I want someone who's very definite. I've had candidates before who've said, oh yes, I think I might be available on Wednesday. That's really not going to work for me. You're either going to be there and you're available or you're not. And if you're not available, say you're not available. I much prefer someone who's definite. So if I get a sense that the candidate is a little bit wishy-washy and doesn't really know, their availability or if they give me any indication really that they're not sure in any way about the job or applying for the job or being about their availability, that's going to be a red flag for me, and I wouldn't continue with them. I don't like when candidates are too informal and speak in email as if they already know me, but I do love it if they have done a little bit of research and indicate that they have looked at our business. I had a candidate who said, yeah, I looked at your website and I understand what you do. That's awesome. I 100% approve of that. If a candidate comes to an interview and they haven't even looked at our website and know nothing about us, then they're clearly not the right person for us to be interested in the work that we do. And oftentimes it's the candidate will be actually doing what we do in their own time. So the best team members that I've had are already building websites. They're already doing it just for fun. They built their auntie's website for her cake business or whatever. They already have that passion, and then they will transition beautifully into the work because they already want to do it. They already want to be there.
Yeah. And in terms of appearance, I mean, when somebody, you're sitting there sort of in the interview room waiting for them, they walk in, they're obviously nervous, as everybody is when they go for an interview. And between, you and me and everybody else in this room, the interviewer can also be a bit nervous. It's, you want to make sure you're asking the right questions and everything. But what do you look for when that person walks in the room in terms of appearance and body language and behavior for that initial initial introduction?
Yeah, so I look for someone who's well dressed, well groomed. That's really important. Candidates need to look good, but they also need to look like they're comfortable in their clothes. I've had candidates walk in wearing something that it's really obvious that they're uncomfortable, that it's someone's handed it to them and said wear this, or it's not what they would normally wear. So that can be a trap as well. So you want to dress a little bit better than you would dress for the role. So whatever you believe you would wear in that organisation on a daily basis, you want to step it up again from that and be really well groomed. Of course, it goes without saying, don't have any stains. Check yourself before you walk in. Jump into the bathroom and make sure you've got nothing on your face, because there's nothing worse than interviewing someone that's got a bit of lunch left on their face. So please, I hope I haven't got any dinner left on my face. So yeah, it's appearance is really important, but even more so is just having a presence of knowing themselves, knowing who they are. And if someone comes into an interview and they're shy, that's okay. I'm a shy person by nature, and it's okay to say that and say, and tell the person that's interviewing you, I am quite shy, and just be honest about who you are. And I think it's that honesty of being honest about who you are and knowing who you are is really important. Not pretending to be something that you're not, because if you are pretending to be something that you're not, then and you do get hired, it's not going to work out anyway. So there's just no point to it. You just need to be exactly who you are, and that you'll either gel with that company or you won't. And yeah, but please do be mindful of your appearance as well. Yeah, absolutely.
And so going sort of from the outside in terms of soft skills, and we've obviously throughout this term, we've spoken a lot about emotional intelligence and soft skills in general. So those skills that, in contrast to hard skills that you can prove, you can prove that you can code, you can prove that you can speak a language, you've got a degree in something, but soft skills are so difficult to at sometimes tangibly display. So what are those soft skills that you look for within someone that you're interviewing for your team, and how do you look for those soft skills when you're doing the interview process?
Yeah, so I ask a lot of questions. I ask about how they manage certain situations. So I'll ask them about certain situations and how they felt about that. I have been known to actually throw in some real curveballs in an interview just to see how the person will react. And so be prepared. There are employers like me out there who will do something really unusual just to see what happens. I'll be even almost to the point of tripping over something to see how they handle that, or spill something. I've done that before. I've actually spilt my water on my desk just to see how they react to that, because having the presence of mind to say, oh my goodness, can I get you a tissue, or can I grab something for you to help, is super important. So there are ways and means of finding out, because in my small team, I'm looking for someone who's really helpful, someone who, if they see something happen to someone else, they're going to jump into action and actually help them. I've sneezed and all sorts of things, just to try and it also gives you a good indication of someone's personality when things go wrong as well.
Yeah.
So if nothing goes wrong, I do manufacture things.
Now, Smaranika, I can see that your hand is up. What I would ask you to do is just pause your questions until the end. So write it down or put it in the in our Q&A, and then LaDon will collate those questions, or I can see those questions as well, and we'll pose them to Cath right at the end. Or if it's a question that you need answered right now, just feel free to put it in our Q&A, and we'll get to it, or LaDon will get to it then there. Now, in terms of, I just wanted to get back to some of those soft skills, because I think something that's shown through in what you were just saying is obviously communication is a key soft skill. And I always say to my students, the 3 most important soft skills are communication, communication, communication. So I can tell anybody in my class will be able to recite that by now, because I say it almost as a mantra every week. But I think the other skill that you were just trying to pull out with your water spill incident is the empathy factor, and that emotional intelligence of reacting to others in a way that you would deem helpful. So empathy is obviously another skill that's really, really important. And I'm assuming that's because you also deal with a lot of clients who might also not always be maybe in the best frame of mind, and then dealing with situations like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Empathy is so important. It's a desire to help other people, and a desire to understand that things may be going on for other people. So not to jump to conclusions in regard to what's going on for other people. So yeah, emotional intelligence is hugely important. So yeah, as I said, understanding and being aware of yourself and the way you are in the world, and accepting yourself for the way you are in the world, because we're all different, and we all have our quirks. I know I'm a quirky person, so being able to accept that this is who you are, and then accept that in other people, and not let other people's quirks annoy you, because you can, and it's you can choose to be annoyed with everyone around you. So and clients can be annoying, they absolutely can, but we have to be able to accept that some people are going to be annoying, they don't mean to be annoying mostly, and we just make the best of it. And sometimes we have a bit of a joke about ourselves and the way we are and the way we react to that. And like my admin today, she said to me, I think this client's triggered me today because of the email that they sent, and I had a read of it, and I said, yeah, I can see why that would trigger you, knowing you that well, and we can have a laugh about it. But she's still giving that client the best possible customer service, but knowing that that something that has been written in that email was quite triggering for her. So we can laugh about it and not get upset about it. Yeah.
So it's having that self-awareness, and then being able to manage yourself towards the client, but actually being able to then relieve that stress within your team.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then the last soft skill that I sort of wanted to touch on, because obviously it relates specifically, it relates to any job, but specifically to yours when it comes to coding and systems and automations and the like, is the skill to problem solve, because you're often going to have things that you've never done before. So how do you look for that within the interview process? What's an example question, or how do you sort of try and find out how an interviewee can problem solve? What techniques do you use there?
Yeah, well, I'll ask them, a question around, if you don't, if you don't know I'll ask them a question that I know that they probably don't know the answer to. So that's the first thing. I'll ask them something kind of ridiculous for the role that I know that they won't know the answer to, just to see how they react to that, because that will tell me a lot. If they try and fudge it and make something up, well, then they've lost me straight away, because they're just trying to make something up and thinking that I don't know what I'm asking. If they get really if they get really stressed by that question, that is another tell for me. Then I know that if they come across something that they don't know the answer to, that it will be stressful for them. And so that's not necessarily a good fit in a small business, because in my business, you need to be able to not get too stressed about things like that. So yeah, I just ask something stupidly hard and then see how they react. And then and so the best answer, just to give you a bit of a hint and a cheat to the students, the best answer is, I have no idea, but I'm going to find out after this interview, because it's obviously something that I need to know, or something along those lines. We don't have to know everything. We're not expected to know everything, but the correct answer is, I can find out. And I say that to clients even now. If a client asks me a question that I don't know the answer to, I will say, I don't know the answer to that question, but I'll definitely know the answer the next time we speak, because that's important to you and important for me to find out. So that's what I'm looking for in my business when I'm employing someone. I'm not looking for someone who knows all the answers, but I'm looking for someone who's willing to find those answers. And one of the trickiest things in the business for new people in the business is for them to know how much time to spend finding an answer. So if they don't know something, it's important for them to try to find the answer, but they also can't spend hours looking for that answer, because unfortunately, as we all know, in business, time is money. But it's having the emotional intelligence to know how long to spend. And because oftentimes, if we can't find the answer within 5 or 10 minutes, particularly with AI, they've got the answer to everything. If we can't find the answer within 5 to 10 minutes, then perhaps there isn't an answer to that question, so that it needs to be set aside to ask the supervisor or manager. I
was going to say, have the confidence to then go, you know what, I've done my research, I can't find it, I actually need to go ask someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that actually moves me beautifully into sort of the next section of my questions. And we've sort of gone through the recruitment process, the interview process. Now, let's say somebody's now part of the business, so they're really starting out working in your company. What do you feel contributes, just generally, not even for a specific person, but what do you feel contributes to good workplace culture? Like, what are things that make a good workplace with people in it?
Yeah, it's acceptance of others, acceptance of everyone's differences. It's communication, 100% communication. It's being able to communicate when things go wrong, being able to talk about those things, being able to speak up for yourself, being able to talk to management or supervisors to let them know what's going on and how you're feeling. It's having that awareness to speak up and knowing when something is not right, that other people may feel the same, and to be willing to speak up. We had in our bathroom, we have a Brene Brown poster. It's braving, and it speaks to all of the different elements that are important in. I should have grabbed it. I didn't think of it until now. But
okay.
It's all about how you are in the workplace, and it's knowing when to keep other people's private information private, so not gossiping about someone else in the workplace to others. It's all of those skills, all of the Brene Brown skills that are really, really important. And I look for that in they're on the team now, but I look to see that that is exists in the business. It's just hugely important. No one wants to be talked about behind their back. No one wants to be made fun of. We can still have a joke, and we do. We have a lot of fun at work, but it's if we make a joke, it's at our own expense, not a big expense of others. So yeah.
I want to pick up on something that you just said about, because communication, but also communicating early when something goes wrong. Why do you feel? That's the one thing I want for you to maybe elaborate on a little bit. Also, in terms of impact on clients, about communicating internal issues early.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just so important. If something goes wrong, particularly if one of my team are dealing with a client and something goes wrong, I want to be made aware of it as soon as possible. I can't speak more. I don't even have the words to say how important that is, because oftentimes it's just a misunderstanding, and I can smooth that over. If it happens and the team member comes to me straight away, I can smooth that over so quickly and so easily. They would just be thinking that a miracle has occurred, but it's because of my 25 years experience that I can do that. And I don't expect a team member that's been in the business a short period of time to be able to do that. But if I know about it, I can support the team member, and I can support the client, and I can, whatever it is, I can make it right. Particularly because in business, team members don't do things deliberately to harm clients or harm a business, and people are understanding if people are honest and admit what's happened and what may have gone wrong, and we fix it straight away. In fact, on our engagement terms, it says we're not 100% perfect, and we will make mistakes, but if we do, you can be damn sure we'll fix it.
Yeah, and I think just hearing you actually communicate that, and I know that you communicate that to your staff as well as your clients, that also then creates the trust within your organization for staff to feel like they can come to you as soon as something pops up. And I think that's something I just want the students to be aware of. Being a manager also means being open to people coming to you, to speaking with you. Obviously we're talking to the students at the moment mostly as employees, but so many of you will go on to manage other people and to be that person that people feel they can come to when there is an issue without fear of reprimand or abuse. I mean, there are horrible workplaces out there, but to know that I'm going there, I'm going to get the support, I'm going to learn how to fix the problem, or I'm going to be shown how to fix the problem in some sort of way. I think that's really, really important as well. Just sort of on a side note, for managers to also demonstrate. What are some of the biggest challenges that you encounter when you hire new people? And I mean that in regards to everything from sort of their competencies to their attributes to their skills. What are some of the biggest challenges that you see there?
Some of the biggest challenges for me are timeliness. It's very easy to get caught up in a job and not realize how long you've spent. So that can be a challenge for me. So for instance, I have graphic designers that I employ in my business, and oftentimes a job has been quoted as, let's say it's 3 hours to complete a task. If the designer spends 6 hours doing that task, then the business has now lost money. And so it's something that is a real challenge, particularly with people who are creative. And it can cause a big impact in the business. The others, in the same vein with designers and creative people, oftentimes when they're dealing with clients will change their mind about something. And so a designer can be 3 hours into a design, and then the client says, oh, you know what? I really think I'd like XYZ now instead of ABC. And the designer goes, oh, I can do XYZ. That's no worries. And off they go and they'll do XYZ. But what they don't realize is they've already delivered ABC, which is what the client asked for. And now they're doing XYZ. And so that 3-hour job has now turned into a 6-hour job because the client has changed their mind. And so it's really important for, in small business, for team to understand that if a client's asked you to do a certain job and you've actually completed that job, and then they ask you to do something different or change it in some way, add to it or change their mind about it, then that's when you need to take it to your supervisor and say, this is what's happened. And because in the beginning, you're not really comfortable to say to the client, excuse me, but I've already done this for you and now you've changed it. And I don't expect a new team member to have that skill either, but they just need to have the skill to go, oh, hang on a minute, I've actually done that, and now the client's asking for something different, and not just to continue working. So that's the one thing. The second thing that I have problems with, so that's more creative people who are more logic and more code based, who have a lot of coding skills. My biggest issue with them is they tend to find the most complicated way to solve a problem. So they will create some kind of amazing code that will solve the problem, but it's not what the client needs. The client needs something that they can edit themselves, something that can be changed, something that doesn't necessarily need to be updated every few months, what have you. So I have that challenge as well in my business, where just because you can doesn't mean you should, and we should always find the simplest solution to problems. So that's a big issue, because that's where I will ask my team to, if they're asked to do a job, I'll ask them to go away, figure out how to do it, and then come back to me and let me know how they're going to do what they're going to do before they actually do it. Because oftentimes the solution that they have, although it's a great solution, it's not necessarily the best solution for the client. And oftentimes I'll say, well, that's really great, you could spend 6 hours building a new plugin, and that will solve the problem, but when the software that it sits on top of gets updated, your plugin's not going to work anymore, when we could actually use this very simple solution of some shortcodes, and that solves that problem. And oftentimes I go, oh, I didn't even think about that, but that is the simple solution. So it is really important, and so that's the sort of part of some of the things that are a problem in the business. People make mistakes, and there's no way to learn this kind of thing without actually experiencing it. And that's why when you start off in a business, you don't earn the big wages, you don't earn really amazing money. You'd often start off on a smaller wage, because you're going to make the mistakes, and you're going to need to have someone say to you, okay, that's great, but that's not how we do it, and there are reasons why we don't do it that way, you need to do it this way. And that's just the reality of business. And it's important to be able to accept feedback as well. That's the next thing around that, because obviously you're going to come to someone like me and say, oh, I can do this, it'd be amazing, and I'm going to give you that feedback and say, yeah, that would be amazing, but there are reasons why we can't do it that way. And there may not be reasons that you see, but we need to do it in the simplest way, and be able to accept that and understand that that's the way it is. I also want team members to bring me fresh ideas as well. I love when a team member comes to me and says, oh, I had this idea, we could do this and this. And sometimes I'm in the middle of something else, and I'll say, yep, park that idea and bring it to our meeting next week, and we'll have a look at it. And sometimes when I have a look at it, I'll say, yeah, okay, I can see, but I see these problems, so take that back with you and have a think about the problems that I've found, and see if you can, if you have a solution for that as well. But yeah, I love ideas and I encourage it, but it doesn't always mean that it's going to get implemented straight away. And oftentimes now's not the right time. It's when we have our scheduled meeting. If it's and that's another thing for me. I like to have really nice big blocks of time to actually get in. I still like to do work in my business. I'm not just a manager who just directs everybody else. I actually enjoy the work, so I like to have blocks of time and uninterrupted where I can actually get in and do my work. And I have certain team members on my team who are the same. They like to get stuck in and be uninterrupted. So I do guard that really closely. So someone coming and interrupting me with something that could have been set aside till later isn't great for me. Not all managers are like that. Some of them have a very much open door policy, and they love having people coming in and out all morning. But I don't enjoy that. I like to have team members who I give them 5 tasks, and if they can't finish task 1, they'll move on to task 2. They'll set that aside with a note as to why they can't finish it, move on to task 2. Maybe they get that done. Task 3, they hit a problem with task 3, but then move on to task 4, and then bring me basically a batch. These are all the tasks. This is what I did. Here's please review this. Here's what I couldn't do, and here's why. And then the other task might be, I have no idea, but I did some research and I think I could do A, B, or C, which makes most sense to you, and that's perfect. Absolutely ideal. Love those kind of teammates. Yeah.
So I want to take you back to when you first managed people. Right. So obviously now you've had many years of experience, and with everything you said, you've obviously come across such a variety of people that have worked for you, and I can, now how to also manage your time and their time so that it works for everybody involved. But when you first started managing people, when you first had your first 1-2 employees, what was that like? What mistakes did you make? Where was sort of where was the line between friendship and employee, and managing all those things that you have when you first manage people? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. Oh, I made all the mistakes that you can make. One of my first employees, I made him his lunch every day. They actually provided him lunch. What are some of the? Yeah, I was way too friendly. He became like my son. And I think that I'm guilty of mothering, of caring so much about my teammates that I neglected the business. I think even is a mistake that I made, that I cared more about them than actually running a profit, which is not a good idea when you're in business. You have to make a profit. What other mistakes have I made? There's been, I micromanaged at one point, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, you name it. I've made those mistakes.
And so how
Often
did
with
you
the best
sort
of
of,
intention. Sorry,
yeah,
sorry,
sorry,
Sarah.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I thought your sentence was done. And then what did you, so, I mean, you obviously then realized you were making those mistakes. And then what sort of steps did you take? You obviously did a bit of reading and research, Brené Brown, for example, but you obviously took then some steps to learn how to become a manager, just sort of in a short, because I know, with time and everything, I don't want to take too much of your time, but just what were sort of some of the things that you then started doing to become a more effective and better manager?
Yeah, I think I did a lot of reading. I read a lot of leadership books. I started to follow people who were leaders in business. I made leadership my focus, and I put a lot of time and energy into that. I also asked my team how I was performing and what they needed, and I don't know that necessarily all of them were completely honest. I don't know that I think I've had team members who weren't able to give me that feedback, even though I'd asked for it. But receiving feedback is an absolute gift. If someone takes the time to give you some feedback, good or bad, whatever it is, it's an absolute gift, and it just helps you grow. And I think that that's been a really huge part of it as well. I've had some teammates who have been 100% willing to give me some feedback, and I've actually had teammates who come into my office and tell me that I'm doing an amazing job, and that's really important. And not an amazing job in being a leader to them, but an amazing job in dealing with the clients. Or if something goes wrong and I need to fix that, they'll come in and say, thank you so much. I'm amazed at how you handle that, and I really appreciate you. Because I think as managers, we should be. I know I do. I tell my team how much I appreciate them and how great they are. But having a team member that says that back to me as a manager, that's really special, because it shows me that they've got enough confidence in themselves to be able to give me that feedback. And I have had feedback from teammates to say, I think that, I need to give you some feedback. And it's been, less than positive, but I have greatly appreciated, because oftentimes we don't know unless someone lets us know that we are doing certain things in a certain way. And I know that, I have a long-term teammate, and we joke about me micromanaging. If I say, oh, have you done blah, blah, blah? And then I'll say, oh, micromanaging. And he'll say, no, you actually not have. You do need to know this. I'll be like, okay, good. Tell me what's going on. So, we can joke about it as well. But it is really important to offer feedback. And I always use a feedback sandwich. So if I do have something that isn't so great to tell a team member about something that's, that's happened, or something that I've seen that needs to change, I will give it in a sandwich. So I'll offer them as much as I can something amazingly positive, and then give them that negative feedback, and finish on a positive note. So if you are a manager and you are managing people, try to keep that in mind, that we are human, and it is really hard sometimes to hear negative feedback, but it is a gift if you can try and keep that in mind. But you can't really sort of tell the person you're giving the negative feedback that you're giving them a gift, because they might not receive it very well.
Very true. Well, I want to come to some closing questions. What if you were to give advice to a university graduate, what do you believe are sort of essential soft skills, attributes, behaviors that you think they should develop before they sort of graduate, or that they should at least have worked on by the time they graduate?
Yeah. So communication, which we have covered, and empathy. A really good soft skill, and one that I had to learn, was to be able to make small talk. And believe it or not, I struggle with small talk, and so I have to stop myself and remember. And so I will walk into the office and say hi to one of my team members, and then I really need to switch on and go, okay, I need to find something to talk about, to ask. I need to remember that her dog was sick last week, and that that to ask about her dog, things like that, because it doesn't really come naturally to me, because I live very much in here, and I've got automation spinning around in my head that I'm going to be doing later on. And so I have to pull myself back out of that and go, hang on a minute, there's a human being in front of me. It's time to actually give them my time and attention. And I think, but that comes also back to knowing yourself as well. And if you know yourself well enough to know that you struggle with small talk, then it's a skill you can develop. So learn that skill, learn to be aware of people around you. And I'm very hyper aware of people's emotions. So I have this, it's a weird combination of not really wanting to talk small talk, but if someone's upset, I know it as soon as I walk in. And if I can feel someone's emotions and they're not in a good place, then that pulls me straight out of wherever I am to ask them, hey, how are you? Is there anything I can do to help you? Do you need a coffee? What do I need? What do you need? But being that person as a teammate, it's not just something that bosses need to be aware of or managers need to be aware of. It's something that we all need to be aware of. And as a teammate, that's the kind of skill that you can start to develop, is just being aware of the people around you, being aware of their emotions, and offering to help them, asking them if they're okay. Do they need anything? Is there anything that you can do to help them? Just for instance, I've got a fractured foot at the moment, and my lead developer, every time he hears me print through, because the printer, I have to walk past him to get to the printer to print something. Every time he hears the printer go off, since I've hurt myself, he just hears the printer, he gets up, he goes to the printer, he picks it up, and he walks it into my office and pops it on my desk and says, here you go, Kath. And it's only a small thing, but it's amazing, because he's aware that, I've got a fractured foot, and getting up out of my chair and going to get something from the printer is cumbersome for me at the moment. So it's just human kindness and consideration goes such a long way.
And my last question, and then I'll hand it over to the students. What advice would you give students specifically for the job application process? Because I think it can at times be soul destroying. One of the things that I tell students is, if you don't get the job, it's not because of you. Sometimes you just don't fit the organization, or the organization actually doesn't fit you. It's not a sign of you. It's actually a sign of sometimes things just don't align. But what are some things that you would sort of give students on their way in terms of the job application process, and how to deal with the whole scenario, and sort of that that niche.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you've said, Sarah, is so true. It's really not about, it's not because you're not an amazing person that you don't get the job. It's not because you're not smart enough. It's none of those. Yeah, it's none of those things. It's often just that you're not the right fit for the business, or not the right fit for the person that you'll be working alongside of. In my most recent hire, I interviewed two ladies for the job, and the first one I thought I was not going to hire her. I just interviewed her because I found her resume really interesting. She had been working in an unrelated field and wanted to to come and join my business and to do something very, very different. But when I sat down across from her, she had researched my business. She had looked us up online. She knew so much about the business. She understood the role so beautifully. And so her enthusiasm to want to change and make that change. And I asked her how the skills that she had developed so far, how they would transfer across to my business. And she was able to give me a whole pile of amazing examples of how her skills, although they were in catering and completely unrelated, could be transferred across and help her to do the job that she was going to do in my business. The lady that I interviewed next to, I thought that I was going to employ, she had all of the necessary qualifications. In fact, she was probably overqualified for the role, but I just didn't gel with her in the same way. She was, her personality just didn't gel, and she hadn't done any research about my business. She didn't really seem to understand what the role entailed, and I ended up employing the lady who I had no intention of employing, and she has been amazing, and she's gone on to learn even more things. She just has a natural talent for the work that we do. So it's not, it's and sometimes it's nothing that you can change about yourself. It just is, or it's not meant to be for you. It is a tough process, but I think the tips that I have are: be really polite, be really available to meet, make yourself available, ensure that the employer knows that you really want to do the work and that you really want to work for them. Do your research, understand their business and who they are. Make sure your cover letter shows that you understand the business that you're going to be wanting to work for, the role that you're going to undertake. Just having shown that interest in the business, and then if you get to the interview stage, be human. Know that you're not going to know everything. Know that you're going to make mistakes, and be okay with that, and be okay with who you are, and let your personality shine through. Be who you are, because it's important that the person who's interviewing you and possibly employing you, that they get a good sense of who you really are. Otherwise, you're going to end up in a role that you don't enjoy, that doesn't suit you, in a culture that doesn't fit with who and what you are. So don't pretend to be something you're not. You'll end up in the wrong place, and you might miss out on something that was way better.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That is a wonderful way to end sort of the formal process of our interview today. Before I fully thank you, I want to pass the baton on to the students.